I want to thank you for joining us in our study of the book of 1 Corinthians. Today we're in 1 Corinthians, the second chapter, starting with verse number 7. Get your Bibles out and read along with us. You know, it's so important that you participate in teaching, whether it's here or at your church or at a Bible study, that you actually participate instead of sitting there with your hands folded and just listening. Participate with us. You will learn and retain much more if you will do that. So get your Bibles out and read with us. Now, 1 Corinthians, the second chapter, verse number 7, the Apostle Paul says, "But we speak God's wisdom in a mystery." What's Paul saying? He says, you know what? There's the wisdom of men. There's the wisdom of demonic sources. We talked about that yesterday. But Paul's saying now we're speaking something else. We're speaking a different type of wisdom, but we speak God's wisdom in a mystery. Now, something I find pretty amazing. When Paul says we speak, he doesn't use what many people would think of as the Greek word logos or legos, which means to speak or to teach an intelligent message. Paul here uses a different Greek word. And this Greek word, laleo, and it means to ramble. It means to speak randomly. And what is Paul trying to get us to understand? How many of you know Paul was speaking wisdom? But the way that he was speaking, it was like he is nothing but God's mouthpiece. He is speaking, and all he's doing is speaking what he's hearing coming out of his spirit man. He's speaking not his wisdom, not his prepared message, but he's speaking what God is speaking. God is speaking through him. He is God's mouthpiece. It's the wisdom of God that he's speaking. Now notice what he goes on and he says, but we speak God's wisdom and we do it in a mystery. Now some people say, oh, it's a mystery. It's a mystery. You need to understand that a mystery is something revealed, not something hidden. It's a noun here. It means a person initiated into a sacred place or a sacred ministry. Paul was initiated by God to speak the wisdom of God. It's not something hidden. Oh, it's a mystery. I don't know. I can never understand the wisdom of God. I've heard people say that. You know what? We've got a Bible to help us to understand. We've got the writings of Paul to help us to understand. Paul is preaching, speaking as a mouthpiece of God himself, the wisdom of God. That's what the Apostle Paul is talking about. And then he goes on in verse number 8. And he says, the wisdom which none of the rulers of this age has understood. This is a wisdom far greater than any of the rulers of this age have ever understood. This is a wisdom that's greater than the understanding of mankind. And then he continues on and he says, for if they understood, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. What is the wisdom? The wisdom of God is seen in Jesus going to the cross and dying for the sins of mankind. If the enemy, if the rulers that the Apostle Paul is talking about here, and I believe that when he's talking about the rulers, I believe he's talking about, again, demonic forces. If they would have known, if they could have seen the wisdom of God, they would have never crucified Jesus. Why? because Jesus took away their authority. He took away their ability to rule mankind. He took away their ability to hold man in sin. And if they would have seen and understood the wisdom of God, you know what? They would have never crucified Jesus. They would have never killed him, crucified him. They would have never allowed the price to be paid for sin. Now I just want to jump back to verse number 7. The end of verse number 7, it says, which God predestined before the ages to our glory. What does that mean? That God in his wisdom had a plan. He had a plan that he's bringing about. That's God's wisdom. The plan of salvation. The plan of mankind being set free. The plan of his son Jesus going to the cross and paying the penalty for sin. The plan of justification. The plan of redemption. God had a plan, and he had a plan before the ages. Wow. You know, when you see a person come to Jesus, you know what you're seeing? You're seeing something that God planned before the ages. You're seeing a person come into the wisdom of God that's going to set them free from sin, that's going to deliver them, that's going to redeem them. And it was a plan that God set in motion before the ages. And I want to just call your attention now to the last words of verse number 7. This plan, this wisdom of God that the demons couldn't understand, this wisdom of God is to our glory. It's for us. God's wisdom was not to show off. This plan that God made, it wasn't so that everybody could say, oh, look at God. No, it was for us. It was so we could be free. And so your neighbor could be free. And so the alcoholic on the street, and so the drug addict, the person that tries to commit suicide, it's so that we could be free. It's for us. This plan, the wisdom of God, is for us. This wisdom that the enemy could not see, could not understand. But we can. We can receive the wisdom of God, and in receiving the wisdom of God, we receive the power. Now let me go very quickly to verse number 9. For just as it is written, things which eye has not seen, nor ear has heard, and which have been entered into the heart, have not been entered into the heart of men, all that God has prepared for those who love him. God has prepared his wisdom. In his wisdom, he has prepared things for us to know. For us who love him and have been committed to him, we see and we know the wisdom of God. Thank you for watching us. Join us again tomorrow as we continue this study in 1 Corinthians.